Hello friends, good evening leaders. My name is Coach Tia and I love giving communication tips and strategies to leaders to help them both personally and professionally. Tonight I wanted to give another broadcast. Wow, I got so many comments from my last video on respect. I had no idea it was going to be such a hot topic. I do appreciate those of you who sent me inbox messages and didn't leave your frustrated comments. I won't say nasty comments because no one was nasty. I think it was just a controversial topic, and I see that many people have been disrespected or had thoughts on respect that they wanted me to address, questions that they had. And so thank you for inboxing me that instead of trying, maybe not spreading any sort of negative energy onto my pages. So I thought I'd just go ahead and address it publicly so we can get another level of content out there. But again, I love sharing communication tips to help people with their internal dialogue. And my whole goal is to support you in this journey of just having the right conversation with yourself, because I truly believe if you have the right conversation with yourself, then having the conversation with others takes care of itself. And I always say on my page, my disclaimer is that this is a kingdom conversation. Those of you who are members of this kingdom, you know who you are. And if you are not, you're more than welcome to inbox me, because I just love sharing my faith with others. So thank you again for the opportunity to have the conversation and continue it in my messages. So here's the part 2 that I wanted to talk about on respect. And one of the top questions that I received in the discussion of respect is whether or not respect is earned. And yes, we are taught that quite a bit. And I do not discredit earning respect, but I'm simply saying that the process for how we earn respect is a little bit different than how you were taught. What I want people to do and what I'm challenging my counterparts to do, my fellow peers to do, and again, my content is for leaders, okay? So please keep that in mind. I am simply saying that you earn respect by the respect that you give to yourself. We should not go around trying to seek the approval of others, hoping that other people respect us because of what we do for them. It should be more so about what we do for ourselves as a demonstration of greatness that other people are inspired by our example of being disciplined internally. But I want to start by saying, let's have this discussion on an even deeper level. I really want to talk about respect because it's so important that we know what it is. I had a phenomenal discussion last night with a group of women, and shout out to Coach Irina, who's a phenomenal author of Reclaim Your Radiance. She had me on one of her women's groups last night, and we had a great conversation about how to communicate our boundaries. So we're going to talk about some of that in this broadcast tonight as well, because I really do truly believe that knowing how to communicate your boundaries in a way that is effective matters, and it does matter greatly to the process of how we continue to show respect for one another, even when we hit points of contention and disagreement. So let's just talk a little bit. Last night, I made the case that you should have the utmost respect for yourself first and foremost, and that your level of respect is something that you give to yourself, and there's never an excuse to behave in a disrespectful way. If someone disrespects you, you would be dishonoring yourself by disrespecting them in return. That is not something that you would do if you truly respect yourself. If you truly respect yourself, you're going to stay in a position of respect constantly, and if someone disrespects you, you'll remove yourself from them. Especially we're talking about someone who knowingly disrespected you after you have communicated what your boundaries are. You remove yourself. It is not becoming of a leader to now try to match someone's energy who's disrespectful. Because when someone is disrespectful, it is not something that you should take personally. Disrespectful behavior is a self-injury, is self-insulting. It is not something that you should take personally. You should observe them, observe their behavior, and see that they are willing to dishonor themselves by dishonoring you. And so You wouldn't be a great leader that you are if you dishonor yourself by dishonoring them in return. What makes a leader is that they are always willing to do the right thing. They are the first to do the right thing, and they're going to be the last to do the right thing. We should not be following someone else's lead in a culture of disrespect, but you should always be setting the example of what respectful behavior looks like, because you respect yourself, because you honor your energy, because you should be preserving your energy for solving bigger and better problems than what is happening in the moment where you may feel offended, your feelings may be hurt, or someone is challenging your boundaries or space. You can address someone honestly. And here's something that I know for a fact, is that if someone truly has disrespectful behavior, you telling the truth about their behavior is enough. You do not have to behave in a disrespectful way or match their energy if you feel as though they need to be corrected. Back to the idea of earning respect. When earning respect really does go in dimensions and layers. So let's just talk about this a little bit. This is one thing I love about people, is that we are multi-dimensional. We are very complex, and there are levels for which we respect ourselves. And I think that we find some of it in different areas. And as we grow and we come across other leaders who are phenomenal people, we find that there are other ways that we can learn how to respect ourselves more. For example, there are some people who truly respect their body. They are health conscious. They are always, working out. They take good care of themselves physically. Maybe they dress well. Their hygiene is good, be out of respect for their physical body. They make sure to treat their exterior very well. There are some people who have a lot of respect for their heart, and that's a deeper level, right? When you have respect for your heart, you do your best to have healthy relationships, to have healthy connections. You do not feed into drama. You don't listen to gossip, nor will you participate in it, because you want to make sure that your connections are right and your heart is guarded, and that it is open for the right types of relationships for you to nurture and cultivate. There are some people who respect their mind, right? People who respect their mind, they want to make sure that they read books. They want to make sure that they're educated. They invest in the best possible education that they can, so that they are always growing in ideas. They will allow themselves to be challenged, right? They will find themselves around people who are smarter than they are, with the intention to help them grow as a person mentally. There are some people who greatly respect their soul. These people tend to be spiritual or religious in nature, and they think in the depth of their essence. They are always trying to protect their decisions long-term, even eternally, because these sort of people tend to believe that they are going to exist even after their body dies, and they want to make decisions that are conscientious with what is in balance with the universe. There are so many levels that we respect ourselves. Let's talk about people who respect their future. When you respect your future, you do your best to manage your money well. You are saving maybe for several generations to come potentially, and investing in the right direction. You do your best to only connect with the right people, because you want to make sure that the future you, or the present you, can be very proud of the future you. There are so many levels and layers for which we learn how to respect ourselves, and we get an opportunity to learn from one another what that looks like, so that we can be inspired by each other, and we can see, hey, look, there's not only a nice width for which we can show ourselves respect, but there's a beautiful depth to that as well. There's so many dimensions that we have to learn how to honor ourselves. And when you allow yourself those disciplinary moments to grow and to expand and to honor yourself, out of that, your behavior changes, your attitude changes. You shouldn't be going to the gym because you want people to look at your body, right? You should be going to the gym because you respect yourself and you honor yourself and you love yourself. People looking at you and thinking you look great is simply a consequence. You don't read books just because you want to have discussions with smart people. You read those books because you yourself want to grow your mind. And this is why I come back to the idea of what it means that you do not need to go out and earn respect. When you're earning it, you're making it external. You're making it about other people. In the same regard, if you want someone to earn your respect, you're telling them that they are not worthy of being respected until until they pass through you. And no one is that important that you have the right to undermine another human being on their own journey. They have to do it because they care enough about themselves, in the same regard that you have to do it because you care enough about yourself. And so we should always be behaving in a respectful way as leaders at all times. That is important. And when you have that love for yourself, just because someone offends you, just because you don't think highly of them in certain areas of their life where they lack discipline, you wouldn't disrespect yourself by disrespecting them. If you can step out of a position of respect, it really is truly telling of the areas where you yourself may have some insecurities that you need to consider. And that's why I do my broadcast, right? The whole point of this is so that you can have the conversation with yourself, have the self-reflection, and see that, hey, look, this is an area where someone can truly take me out of my character and I behave in a disrespectful way. What are areas of my life what insecurities did they hit on? What immaturities in me did they touch that I was able to step off my throne within my own heart of where I should be on top of my game to pull me off of it? And why would I allow them that kind of power to do that? You as a leader need to preserve your energy to do great things, not to go tit for tat for someone who has less discipline in areas of life than you do. So no, we should never approach any connection or relationship with the idea that we're trying to figure out who we want to respect and who we don't. Just respect yourself and have enough honor for yourself to always carry yourself in the best way possible. Don't focus on who isn't growing and elevating in certain areas. You should always just be focusing on who is and what you can learn from them in those areas and those dimensions of self-respect that I just addressed. Now, I'd love to just kind of switch the conversation a little bit. And I'd like to talk about boundaries because I think that boundaries are such an important part of this dialogue. Without boundaries, there really is no evidence that respect exists, because respect literally means that you are able to establish a line and someone is able to honor that line, right? A line that I have, I always like to give the example, light examples of health. One of my lines when it comes to health is that there's certain things that I do not eat. And what may separate me from some friends versus others is that someone can go to McDonald's for dinner. I don't eat McDonald's. Now, do I think lowly of them? Am I going to put them down? I'm like, I don't want none of that. That's crap. That's disrespectful. If you need to put people down, you can simply say, no, thank you. But I'm more likely to go and eat with people who are respectful of the types of ways and the healthy things that I like to put in my body. Those are most likely the people I'm going to be around. And that's why I say that if someone is not capable of honoring the areas of your life where you show yourself the most respect, it just separates you from them. It separates you from them automatically. Now, when it's time to communicate boundaries, because there is a position of your life where you're more disciplined than someone else is, and perhaps they are not accepting that you two may not be on the same track. And so you either need to communicate that line. If you're not able to just walk away with ease of comfort and being able to just say no thank you, boundaries is a wonderful preventative measure that you are supposed to establish, and when you can do it from the position of prevention, that is how you know who truly respects you and who doesn't. Sometimes the problem becomes that we like to set boundaries too late, and by the time we're setting boundaries, we're snappy or we're short or we're yelling or we're frustrated in that moment, when you were supposed to establish a boundary early before you became emotionally involved. So how does that look? For example, those of us who are parents may know how this feels. I remember being a kid, and I'd be so excited for my dad to come home. And he's coming off work, and my dad used to work a really, really tough job at the time at Buckeye Steel. One of the boundaries that my mom would set is to give dad, an hour to himself. My brother would run up to him, and he would just want to jump on his leg, and my dad would have to struggle and carry my brother on his leg because he was just excited to try and climb up dad like he's a big old toy. But my mother knew how tired he would be when he came home from work. So she would establish a boundary and say, hey, when dad comes home, give him a hug and then go to your rooms for a minute to give dad some time to wind down a bit. Those are preventative things. If that doesn't get honored, then of course dad would have to become a little bit more aggressive, or we're not going to get the best possible result out of dad. Right? And so that's how that looks. And sometimes as adults, we forget to set preventative measures when we communicate with people. And so we snap on them and set boundaries in a way that isn't kind. And when those people react to our lack of kindness and they feel disrespected by you setting boundaries, I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, they can't respect my boundaries. And now, we have a problem, when sometimes the problem is you didn't set your boundaries in a respectful way. And so this is why I say that as a leader, your job is to show respect first. And if you want people to respect you, you have to first be respectful. And if you want people to honor your boundaries, you need to be able to communicate them in a preventative way that shows patience with others. First, observing where you guys may be different, and then being able to communicate where the line may be, the distinctions between the two of you. And boundaries are not walls, they are bridges. Literally, it's supposed to say that, like, your door is a boundary, right? For someone to respect your home, they have to knock on your door first and ask for permission to come in. And that's how your boundaries should be treated. It's supposed to be treated as a way for us to have I'm losing my word, goodness. It's supposed to be consensual. That is how boundaries are supposed to be communicated, to say, hey, look, this is my door, and this is the way you gain access. But sometimes what we're doing is we're setting them up as walls to say, this is where I'm at, and you can't come in here. And once again, sometimes that does not get the best possible result out of people. And then what happens is they either think you're controlling them, or maybe you are, or they think you're punishing them for being themselves, or whatever the case may be. And then there becomes all of this misunderstanding in between relationships because the connection and the process for how to set boundaries and how to communicate those boundaries was disrespectful to begin with. So I want you just to take the time to be honest with yourself about that. Be honest and ask yourself in your connections, in your relationships. And yes, of course, we all value being able to have people who can generally sense some of our boundaries and have that sort of chemistry where they can get a feel for it. And of course, we all like to assume in this word of common sense that there are some things that seem to be common sense, but as we all have lived and have learned that what is common to you may not be common to someone else. So I want you to be honest with yourself about the way you communicate your boundaries. Have you communicated your boundaries, or have you simply just punished people for not knowing them? Because that has happened a lot. Many of us have been there. How does that look? The difference between setting a boundary and punishing people for your boundaries is like just shutting down if someone does something that you don't care for, or demanding space, and sometimes people have no idea what they did wrong. If you didn't have a proper conversation to begin with, and trust me, you're not having a conversation so that you can ask people to respect your boundaries. I'm not saying that at all, nor do people need to understand why you have them. You don't need to offer too much information, but I'm simply saying in the lightest tone, have you at least communicated what the line is so that someone at least has the opportunity to honor it? Because if you just shut down, if you just get quiet, if you just demand space, if you just walk away, then you have another person who feels disrespected on the other side. And as a leader, you're not going to get the best possible results out of one another. And sometimes some people who are aggressive, they're just going to fight back and they're going to dishonor you, and you dishonor them, and it just becomes this vicious cycle. So I want to encourage you that if there are connections that you care about, and here's how you really know whether or not you were properly communicating your boundaries. Here's how you know whether or not you were being fair to people in the process of establishing those boundaries. Is if you were doing this because you're trying to teach someone a lesson. Are you doing this because you are trying to, you truly want to push them away, or are you hoping that you're going to teach them a lesson that forces a conversation or forces an apology or forces something? So it's good to draw the line, and I say this, I'm going to be the first to say it. If you truly want someone away from you and you don't care about the quality of that connection, if they are that detestable to you, shut down, walk away is not worth your energy. I have no problem with being able to instate that. But if you actually do care about that connection, if this person is important to you, if you do care about the relationship and you're the type to just shut down, get quiet, walk away, or demand space, then you're doing yourself a disservice by punishing them for not understanding or not knowing what the boundary is and not having the proper conversation with them so that you can develop a preventative measure. Because again, setting boundaries are about prevention. It's about saying, if you do this, this is how you gain access, not don't do this because I need you to stay away from me. And people are not always understanding the distinction between those two worlds, and it's very important that we do understand it so that we can always cultivate and have very healthy relationships and connections over time. I have watched this several times. I've even made this mistake myself. So I'm communicating this with you because I want you to understand just how important it is that we learn the art of diplomacy as leaders, and we learn how to manage our connections. In the world that I've been in, you never know who someone's going to be. You never know how important they're going to be. You never know if whether or not they're going to be considering your grant application. You don't know if they're fixing your car. You don't know who people are oftentimes, or who they're going to become, or who they know. And it's so important that you're always protecting your name and your reputation. And the best way to do that is to ensure that you as leaders are always honoring people and honoring relationships at all times. That's so important. And if you can protect your name by making sure that people have, at least primarily and mostly, they have good experiences with you, then you do yourself a great service in the future. You're respecting your future by making sure that you learn and understand how to communicate your boundaries to people in a way that still honors them, but is mostly truly honorable to yourself in the moment and for years to come. So I hope that that really helps you to understand how important that process is. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, look, I know you don't know this about me, but let me share something with you for how you can get the best possible results out of me. And then you can say, please, always call me by my first name, or whatever the case may be, whatever your thing is. There's some people who are, babe, cutie pie, and you're like, hey, I know you don't mean any harm. And I loved saying that phrase. And the reason why it's important is because I was taught to build bridges with people, build golden bridges, and always assume the best. And trust me, so many of your conversations go much better if you assume the best, and people are willing to have a conversation if you're not trying to put them in a defensive position. So I love to say, I know you don't mean any harm. It's adorable that you like to make nicknames, but I would just love it and really appreciate it if you would just call me by my first name. Instead of snapping, going off, that's not my name, that's not who I am. Don't be that person. Be kind, but still be firm and be clear about what it is that you want. Now, if they keep invading your boundary, and if they keep showing they don't care about how you feel, then I understand when you have to be more assertive with how you establish that line. But in the beginning, don't be a person that only establishes boundaries when you're mad. Don't be that person. Be preventative. Have the conversation. Create a door, not a wall. And because what happens is eventually over time, if you do not learn how to communicate your boundaries in a proper way, then you are going to create walls that lock you in and keep everyone else out, versus creating a door that allows people to come in that you truly want in, who have a good heart. They may not always have the best execution, but they do have a good heart and they mean well, and they're willing to learn if you are willing to be patient and teach. And one of the things that I have found in life is that oftentimes people who require the most patience tends to have the least of it. So I'm challenging you to not be that person. Be a person who honors yourself by having patience, and trust me, no one gets through life being impatient and wants to have a good life. Patience is truly a virtue, and you should always embrace opportunities to develop that in areas because it will make you better. Now, there's a difference between being timely and being prompt and being impatient, but do not, impatience is an immaturity, and you don't want to go through life with it because you're just going to go and have a very frustrating life. So if you can learn to be patient with others, it is a way that you are honoring yourself. It is a way that you are honoring your mental health. It is a way that you are honoring your time, right? And you're strengthening yourself in the process, because there are aspects of your life you cannot control whatsoever. You cannot control people. So you're better off just learning to be patient. That does not mean growing patience with abuse. I'm not saying that, so please do not mistake it. But I'm just simply saying that when you know a person means well and they're just not executing well, please be patient with them. That is very important, because we all would like that opportunity. We all also do not always execute very well, and we need people to be patient with us. So as a leader, demonstrate patience so that you can also receive it. But anyhow, thank you again for all of your wonderful comments. I wanted to make sure that I addressed them. I thought that the conversation on respect was so important to have, and apparently it was important to you all as well. I've got great messages on my TikTok and on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook page that just wanted to further the conversation, and I wanted to make sure I addressed your remarks. But God bless you. God loves you. I love you, and I hope you have a great night. Thanks.